What's going on, moviegoers? So if you're new to the channel, my name is Christian. Welcome to SeaWorld Productions. Comic book movies / superhero movies of 2019 ranked, you guys. We've had 7 of them this year. Now that is a whole lot. I remember back in the day we only had like one every like 2 to 3, 2 to 4, 2 to 5 years. It's crazy. And now we have them like literally dropping like 7 a year, 4 a year, 3 a year. Like that's intense. That's a lot. Massive amounts. And these comic book movies are just blockbusters. They are saving Hollywood. Let's be realistic. If it wasn't for these comic book movies, Hollywood would be screwed. These comic book movies literally bring in millions of dollars from their consumers. So I don't see these movies ever stopping anytime soon, especially after Endgame toppling Avatar's box office run. It's just, we're always going to continue to get comic book movies. And I'm happy that we are. I just want them to be of high caliber. I really do. I don't want them to be low caliber comic book movies. Because I feel like if you have a low caliber comic book movie nowadays, it's like, come on, dude, what are you doing? Get your shit together. Like, there's no room for shitty comic book movies anymore. No room. There's no excuses. None. We have fantastic writers, directors, producers. No excuses. But in this video, you guys, I'm going to be ranking them. 7 of them this year. And my list is interesting. I don't know if it's going to, be the same as yours. It might some might top, some might not. But you know what? This is my personal list. This is me, Christian. As you watching, you have your own personal list as well. I understand. My number 1's not going to be your number 1. My number 5's not going to be your number 5, and that's okay. We can still talk. We don't have to, be so hateful to each other. There's no point for that. Because I feel like with today, if anybody has any kind of different views than each other, there's so much hate, and it's nonsense. We should be able to come to a disagreement, but then walk away respecting each other. Nothing wrong with that. Now, let's get into it. Coming in at number 7, Dark Phoenix. Dark Phoenix came at the bottom of my list because Dark Phoenix was a huge disappointment. With all of its setbacks, we're talking release dates, all the reshoots, I knew that this film was going to be in trouble from day one. And boy, oh boy, it was in trouble. Just didn't do it for me. You don't rush into a Dark Phoenix movie after having Jean Grey for one movie. Makes no sense. It is a build-up for this kind of film. It is like at least a 3 to 4 film build-up. And they shot themselves in the foot, and they tried to recreate the Dark Phoenix movie again after The Last Stand. I don't know why. There are so many other comic book stories when we're talking X-Men. I don't know why they decided to do this again, but guess what? It landed at the very bottom of my list, and that's where it is. 7. Coming in at number 6, Captain Marvel. Brie Larson's Captain Marvel. Marvel Studios' first female lead solo film. Came in at number 6 for me. Now, I was so surprised of how much I disliked this movie. I went in there so excited. I liked everything from the trailers. I know, right? Very surprising. Watched the film, came out of the film so disappointed, so underwhelmed. The film was blah. The film was boring. I just didn't have any interest in it. Brie Larson's character as Captain Marvel is just so bland to me. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It just didn't do it for me. It really, I feel like the pace of the film was terrible. Terrible paced. And at the end of the day, I didn't like it. And I'll say this, and I'll continue to say it. This is how I believe. Captain Marvel is my worst MCU film of all time. Sorry, that's the way it is. I rather watch Thor: The Dark World. After Endgame, Thor: The Dark World has a meaningful purpose. It does. Not saying Thor: The Dark World is a fantastic movie, but it has purpose because of what happened in Endgame. That's where I'll leave it. Captain Marvel at number 6. Number 5, I give it to Hellboy. You know what? I saw Hellboy in theaters. Didn't necessarily like it. Bought it Rewatched it a couple more times. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna give credit where credit's due. Hellboy was actually entertaining. David Harbour as Hellboy, I actually really liked. He was funny. He was badass. And he looked good in the suit. So Hellboy, I give it the number 5 spot. It was entertaining. And then I saw like the behind the scenes features. It was like an hour and a half. It was so intriguing to see how they made this film and how many things they used with practical effects. And I'm a huge practical effects kind of guy. And it was pretty badass. Like all the demons and like goblins and stuff like that. The Baba Yaga, like that shit was terrifying. Like that shit was creepy. And at the end of the day, I thought Hellboy was actually entertaining. And I thought it was fun. So Hellboy is number 5 on my list, you guys. Coming in at number 4, you have Shazam. Now, Shazam was a huge surprise. I walked out of Shazam loving this movie. I thought it was a well-paced, fun, entertaining, enjoyable, relatable film. It was very, very fun. And to have a newly introduced character as Billy Batson and Shazam and the whole world of DC, it was fucking cool. Like I really enjoyed it. Like before I watched the film, I read the Shazam New 52 by Jeff Johns, and it's literally like page for page. Like it was so good. And I love that it was like a Christmas themed movie. Should have came out in December, personally, if you ask me. But I thought it was badass. I mean, the suit looked fantastic. The action was good. All the kids were very much believable. The direction they took with this film, I liked. It was lighthearted. It embraced what it was. It was a goofy comic book movie, and they embraced it. They didn't hold back. They did not hold back. And Zachary Levi, I think that's his name, who plays Shazam, did a wonderful job. And I can't wait to see him return for the sequel, if they greenlight the sequel. But Shazam was very entertaining, you guys. I liked it. Shazam comes in at number 4 on my list. Drum roll, please. Number 3, you have Spider-Man Far From Home. Spider-Man Far From Home was a huge get for me. After Endgame, I needed something more lighthearted. I was just heartbroken. I was emotionally ill. I was just so sad after Endgame. Everybody knows how much Endgame sucked the life out of you. And to have Spider-Man Far From Home come out a month or so after it, boy oh boy, it set the tone. And I was like, okay, I really enjoyed Far From Home. Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio, I was so excited and thrilled. I was like, dude, I can't believe the MCU got Jake Gyllenhaal. That is a huge get, and I can't wait to see how he portrays Mysterio. And boy, he did not disappoint. I love the whole backstory with him and Barf and working for Tony. Like, all that stuff was so fucking cool, and I love how they tied it in to the first Iron Man. Talk about great continuity. That's Marvel Studios for you. Always having the top-notch continuity between all their films. And I thought Far From Home was a huge step up from Homecoming. Because I enjoyed Homecoming, I didn't overly love Homecoming. I thought Homecoming was kind of boring at sometimes. So they definitely embraced more of the Spider-Man element in Spider-Man Far From Home. He became more of his character. But I can't wait to see where they go with Spider-Man 3, with Iron Man completely being out of the story. You know, I think it's time to have Peter Parker really embrace who he is, you know, when we're talking Spider-Man. You know, stop sitting in the backseat of Tony Stark. It's time to fully embrace, with great power comes great responsibility. So I can't wait to see what direction they take the third Spider-Man film. But like I said, I really enjoyed Far From Home. I thought it was badass, especially the ending with the whole J.K. Simmons coming back as J. Jonah Jameson, and then everybody knowing his secret identity. Like, man, they're setting up something pretty big for Spider-Man 3, potentially Spider-Man 4, if the Sony Disney can figure out another contract renewal, because he only has 2 more films. Spider-Man 3, which is set for a release date of July, I want to say 6, 2021, and then he's going to be in another Marvel film that is untitled right now. But we'll see what happens. Coming in at number 2. Now, number 2 and number 1 are goddamn close. So close. But I'm going to have to give number 1 the edge to number 2. Avengers Endgame comes in at number 2 for me. Avengers Endgame was a film that embraced every element of every nerdgasm a comic book fan would ever want. It literally set so many pieces together, and it was a fantastic comic book movie. A heartfelt comic book movie. To see all these characters return, Tony, Cap, Thor, to see how they all dealt with the snap. I loved Avengers Endgame, and I always will love Avengers Endgame, no matter what. I've never felt so emotionally drained from a film like I did after watching Endgame. It was a lot to take in. It was, especially the second half of the film when they start going back in time. Like that whole entire sequence was just so badass. Cap fighting himself. It was just so cool to see Hail Hydra. Like, it was a fan service film. And the Russo brothers delivered on every single aspect for me. Every aspect. Like when I picture a big blockbuster comic book movie, I picture Avengers Endgame. That has the title for me. That has everything I want in a big blockbuster comic book movie. It has everything. And it was fantastic. It was heartfelt. It was very emotional. The action was fantastic. Downey, Chris Evans, like seeing everybody return. It was just a beautiful moment. And Avengers Assemble, Endgame had some of the greatest comic book moments of all time. So many great comic book moments. So many. Picking up Thor's hammer when everybody comes back. Like, I don't see any other comic book movie having moments like that, like Endgame did. It was the purposeness, I don't even think that's a word. The purpose to all these moments were so fulfilling. Endgame, Pizza Chef. But that's number 2. Loved it so much. Borderline number 1. But number 1, I'm giving it to Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix, because Joker was an artistic masterpiece of a film. A well-grounded film. A film that touched on very sensitive topics that most people are afraid to talk about, which is mental illness. I expected this film to be great. I didn't expect it to be amazingly great. It exceeded my expectations. Joaquin Phoenix definitely is going to get Best Actor at the Oscars, Golden Globes, whatever you want to call it. He was astonishing. The cinematography, so many shots had you kind of like, had you feeling uncomfortable. Majority of the shots were like close-ups, were just so damn good, and it brought you into the film. The score, amazing score. I just loved everything about this film. And I put Joker at number 1 because as a filmmaker like myself who wants to become a filmmaker one day, I'm not a filmmaker, but I want to become a filmmaker one day. I look at Joker as the type of film that inspires young filmmakers to go out and accomplish these astonishing, well-made, grounded films that are relatable. Those are the kind of films I want to make. Let's be honest with you. I don't see myself ever making a fucking huge comic book movie like Endgame. I just don't. But to have a film like Joker that doesn't necessarily have to be a comic book movie, because if you take away the name of Joker, it would still be a sensational movie. So I give Joker number 1. That takes my number 1 spot. I've had plenty of time to think about this list, you guys, and Joker goes number 1. Let's revisit. Joker 1, Endgame 2, Far From Home 3, Shazam 4, Hellboy 5, Captain Marvel 6, and Dark Phoenix comes in at number 7. That is my ranking of 2019 comic book movies, you guys. Damn, we've had some great shit this year, and we have also had some terrible shit this year. But I am thrilled and I'm happy, you guys. Post your comments down below. Let me know what you guys think of my list. Post your top ranking for comic book movies of 2019, you guys. Peace.